Walk with me.
The simple believeth every word, but the prudent man looketh well to his going. A wise man feareth and departeth from evil, but the fool rageth and is confident. He that is soon angry dealeth foolishly, and a man of wicked devices is hated. The simple inherit folly, but the prudent are crowned with knowledge. The evil bow before the good, and the wicked at the gates of the righteous. The poor man is hated even in his own neighbor, but the rich hath many friends. He that despises his neighbor sinneth. He that hath mercy on the poor, happy is he. Do they err that devise evil? But mercy and truth shall be to them that devise good. In all labor there is profit, but the talk of the lips tendeth only to penury. The crown of the wise is their riches, but the foolishness of fools is folly. A true witness delivereth souls, but a deceitful witness speaketh lies. In the fear of the I Am is strong confidence, and his children shall have place of refuge. The fear of the I Am is a fountain of life, to depart from snares of death. In the multitude of people is the king's honor, but in the want of people is destruction of the prince. He that is slow to wrath is of great understanding, but he that is hasty of spirits exalteth folly. A sound heart is the life of the flesh, but envy and rottenness of the bone. He that oppresseth the poor reproacheth his maker, but he that honoreth him hath mercy on the poor. The wicked is driven away in his wickedness, but the righteous hath hope in his death. Wisdom resteth in the heart of him that hath understanding, but that which is in the midst of fools is made known. Righteousness exalteth a nation, but sin is a reproach to any people. The king's favor is toward a wise heart, but his wrath is against them that causes shame. Psalms chapter 14, verses 15 through 35. Deliver me from the hands of evil spirits who have sway over the thoughts of men's hearts, and let them not lead me astray from thee, my God. Establish thou me in my seat, that we go not astray henceforth and forever. Jubilee 12 and verse 20. Yes, all praises to the Most High, who is inhabitor of all space and time, who makes law for everything that pertaineth to the earth, space, and time, even for time, the sun and the moon, even for the earth to nurture plants and man that he might grow up and be healthy, and even the animals, even the stars who receive their light of unknown substances, and the sun, which no man can really correctly know, but his light yet remains. The moon, whose light never goes out, but yet is always on time. Yes, you're walking with Mr. Clay. I'm Mr. Clay. And also we thank God for those of you who have been with us since the beginning, and those of you who have been with us here's about, and we thank God for those of you who have just subscribed, as well as those of you who are about to subscribe, and even those of you that have viewed or are viewing. We thank God for you, and those incognito, we thank God for you too. Yes, giving God the praise and the glory even for you. We're in the book of Ezra, chapter 9. As you prepare, next coming up would be the last book in Ezra, and we'll be headed on. But one thing about Ezra, we just realized how God had restored the temple. They were able to build at the commandment of, should I say, the King Xerxes, after they found the letter that he wrote, and which the naysayers, the Christian Israelites, I would say, they came. In other words, when I say Christian Israelite, I'm saying those who go by the law and by the paganism which is of the New Testament, is what I'm saying. Now, they want to be a part of them, but they said no. You cannot serve God and flesh. No, you can't. God is not flesh. Never, and never has been. God's never been killed. God is always and ever shall be. Or should I say the I am, who we call Yah in that language, means I am. See, we still get it confused and our minds get warped and we forget yesterday in trying to make our point for today. So we have to remember these things, that God is there for you and that you need to understand his laws, statutes, commandments, and ordinances. We didn't say judge them, but understand them. These things are really common sense. His laws, statutes, and ordinances are really common sense. His way toward us, even how we treat him. He has prescribed a certain method and a way that we come unto him, whether it's in sin or forgiveness or whatever. This is what God requires. And our dealings with each other, whether we have to delete, or should I say execute each other because of things that we have defied against our brother, or that we should have a measure of what is right and what is wrong, even though we may know this is a measure that we might hold to those that are accused. Now, Ezra chapter 10. Well, we got the pagans out there outside trying to draw more souls to damnation. They get out, they get in these neighborhoods and they begin to spark forth their big loud, should I say, goings forth. You know, blowing people down and people thinking they're falling and all this stuff. A hypnotist can do that. A hypnotist can make a whole crowd fall over. Apparently these guys have some kind of way that they do it, and they've discovered, or somebody have taught them how to do it. And people mistake it and believe it to be what they call the Holy Spirit. But there is no Holy Spirit as we know it. The only Holy Spirit there is that Spirit which gave the law for everything, and he is holy because everything that he put forth is clean. Clean in your dealings with your husband, your wife, your children, the husband with his wife, the children, and all your neighbor, and how you even deal with the earth. He has made laws to everything. Ezra chapter 9. Let us begin. Now when these things were done, the princes came to me, saying, the people of Israel and the priests and the Levites have not separated themselves from the people of the lands. Now see, this is another thing you have to do if you're an Israelite, or you think that you're an Israelite, or you know or not sure, but you like the way of the Most High. You have to separate yourself from this land, from government. Yeah, you have to obey his laws as far as traffic and all these things they have, but you have to separate yourself in what is clean and unclean, according to the law. The law gives you how to separate yourself. It gives you the measure. In other words, you don't eat the things they eat. You don't go the places they go. You don't dress the way they dress. It doesn't say you have to dress like a ancient mythical being, but it's saying that you should put on those things which are presenting of rendering a clean mind to the person viewing you. Clean. A clean mind. Regardless of how they're going to think it anyway. But don't mean you have to make it worse. There's a certain view in many, should I say, cultures. Separate yourself, number one. That is holy in front of the Most High. This is what he has put forth for Israel, to separate themselves. Not doing these things, the clubs and all this other stuff. It's just not the clubs, but yes, it's talking about being holy, being clean. In other words, you have to read Exodus, and you have to read Leviticus, and you have to read Numbers and Deuteronomy to understand these laws. God gave Israel the laws before they even went into the land of Canaan, which is now, they say it's Palestine, and some say it's belonged to them other folks. But either way, it belongs to Israel. And people try to take it for just reasons. They want to be known by God, going in another way. But you can't. You have to come through Israel. Period. That's it. Nothing else. He says, now, doing according to the abominations, even the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Perizzites, the Jebusites, the Ammonites, the Moabites, and the Egyptians, and the Amorites. These are the nations that have abominated themselves before the Most High. But yet we still go back to listen to the TV show. Oh, the Egyptians built the pyramid. Well, why are the pyramids are so ancient in North and South America? Pangea, my friends, Pangea. Okay. That's how even the sons of Noah have been indigenous over all the earth, because they all got off the ship. If Noah's DNA was a certain DNA, then all the sons that Noah had to fit the description of that DNA. Some says he will be B1A or whatever, but yet these are the sons of Noah, according to the narrative. Now, 2, Ezra prays, for they have forsaken their daughters, taken their daughters for themselves and for their sons. In other words, you're mixing. You cannot mix these pagan people with your sons and daughters, because they will turn your sons and daughters pagan. Now, there's one that have joined himself, or not himself, but herself, to the way of the Most High. If you're a boy, a man, or whatever, then that may be under consideration, and she will not depart from that because of you being the head of the household. Now he says, so that the holy seed might have mingled themselves with the people of those lands. Yea, the hand of the princes and rulers hath been chief in this trespass. In other words, you see these women, BBLs and all this other stuff, and fixing themselves up with the paint of burlesque and everything, and next thing you know, wow, that's so pretty, that's beautiful. Well, the plain Jane just got as good as a shape. She has just as good, she's just plain. She has a beautiful face without makeup. She has a beautiful dress on. She don't have to be all flashy and everything, sitting in the high places and high seats, spending the money God will bless you with on foolishness and idols, her Hail Marys and all these other rosary stones and all this stuff, so that she can count her prayers daily. I wonder, did Islam get that from the Catholic Church, or the Catholic Church got that from Islam? These rosary stones that they count even in their prayers, making repetitious chants with them, like that's supposed to help. Now, he says, now, they mingle their seeds. Mingling seeds. What do you mean by mingling seeds? Mingling seeds with those that are of different, that walk in a different path, that does not agree with you. And you have some of these Christians who say to an Israelite young man, or a man that they deem is, oh, it's okay, you do it your way and we're going to do it ours. Oh, no. When a woman comes to you and say, my God is your God, and your way is my way, that the seed might be holy, is what he's saying. When she begins to accept those things that are, you cannot go with a woman that is of Buddhism and you supposed to be Israelite, or a woman that is Christian and you are Israelite. You're going to follow that same paganism that they're in. And even with those who follow the angel Gabriel, or soever that spirit is, say it was, but the doctrine does not match that which is delivered to Moses. Gabriel was an angel that, or should I say the messenger, that delivered part of that historical account to Moses. He was not. in the book of Enoch, Gabriel has his duties and tasks. Read it. And that's where I come from. They don't want you to know that stuff. Now, when I heard this thing, I rent my garment and my mantle. In other words, here are Israelites, they're taking on like their King Solomon, who have married many women without they even changing or coming into the knowledge or even practicing that which is lawful and holy before the Most High. And he himself turned unto idols. They turned him. This is what he's looking at. He says, I rent my garment. I was so distraught. Oh, your people. They're all messed up. Confused the faces. Listen how he says what Jeremiah says. Now he goes on and says, of the lands in the hands of the priests, as rulers have been chief in this trespass. Even the leaders, led by idolatrous women of other peoples. Now, and when I heard this thing, I rent my garment and my mantle and plucked off the hair of my head. In other words, it hurted. He probably bled because he was in such anguish to see the high priest, whose heart was turned and strongly toward the Most High, even Ezra, and sat down astonished. And when they assembled unto me, every one that trembled at the words of God, the God of Israel. In other words, they're looking at him, knowing that this is their God and that their people have what? All that God says, that will we do. This is the true mark of an Israelite. You don't be born again into no Israelite. You're born into it. And then if you come, you're converted unto it if you're of another nation. There's no such thing as no born again. It's a lie. You either born, they did that to try to erase the children of Jacob. Christians did this. Whereas the other one used the angel Gabriel. Oh, my. Angel Gabriel is not God. No, he's not. Now, he says, and then were assembled unto me every one that trembled at the words of the God of Israel, because of the transgressions of those that had been carried away. What did he say? That the land spew thee not out. In other words, you polluted with your sins, your murders, your adulteries, your abominations, your fornications, as the Greek would put it. Anything that is out of the auspices of marriage or out of the confines of marriage is adultery. I don't care what you say. And outside the laws that God have given for the family is adultery. You uncover your father's nakedness, little girl, what is happening? You're in adultery. That is your mother's husband. And you should be deleted. And he should too. Now, let's continue. He says, now, they were assembled because of the transgressions and had been carried away, and I sat astonished till the evening sacrifice. In other words, they were sacrificing 24/7. All to get God to renew their minds, to bring them back into that law, statutes, commandments, and ordinances, the measure of what is right. This is the law. It's the measure of what is right before the Most High. It has nothing to do with this world and what they think. Just like the laws of the United States has nothing to do with the law in Africa. That has nothing to do with the law that is in China. Each one has their own laws, and God has his law. There's no way no Christian, no Jesus, no Yahushua, no Yahusha should come and change that law. Even as it's prophesied, he shall change the laws and the times. Your worship, your Sabbath on Saturday, when the Sabbath is the new moon, 7 days after the new moon. God created the moon and the sun that man might number his days. This is what he's talking about. Not only the new moons, but the feast days and all these other days that God have given us. He's given you the moon, and you hear the, even as I said before, Even many people go by the moon as far as knowing their time. Yes. So what is nature? Is it this fake Saturday and Sunday? That's for their convenience. They have created this weekend thing for their convenience. But God says, this is what I want you to follow. So you follow your own way. You're still in sin. You're still an abomination unto the Most High. If you follow Jesus, Yahushua, Yahusha, if you sit up there and you follow these Christian ways and these Islamic ways or whatever, you are still in transgression of the law. Idolatry. This is what God has had to deal with throughout the years. Wanting to follow the heathen in their way because it sounds good. Now verse 8, and now a little space, favor have been showed from the I am our God, to leave us a remnant to escape and to give us a nail in this holy place. A nail, that was one is mentioned by Isaac in the book of Jasher, where Esau was with an ungrateful woman who complained about him, and as he was trying to provide for his family, going out to hunt. And Isaac came and he saw and heard her out of the tent. You read this in the book of Jasher. And he told the woman to tell her husband, as a nail in a sure place, this nail is not sure, in so many words. I didn't quote that right. And then when Isaac heard it, he divorced his wife. Gave her up. Bye. In other words, this code was among him, even the Abrahamic people. A nail in the sure place means a tent peg, not a picture hanging on a wall. It's that Christian mess. It's a tent peg. That is described as a nail. The translators, they even got it. It's as a tent peg in a sure place is what it should read. But anyway, let us continue. He said to give us a nail in this holy place. In other words, to keep it up. To make it sound, to make it sturdy, to make it not fall or fold over. That our God may lighten our eyes and give us a little reviving in our bondage. We're in bondage today. You're in bondage because you're surrounded by the heathen way. You systematic, demonic rebellion against the ways of the Most High. Listen on social media, those of you that have been awakened to this thing. Listen throughout the ways that the churches talk and all these other Hebrew Israelite Christians talk in their paganistic ways, worshiping whom they deem a deity next to God. There is no deity next to God. There's only his angels, those, or should I say even the spirits that stand before him crying, holy, holy, holy. They're before him day and night, the cherubims and seraphims, the 24 elders, all of them. See, the 24 elders are not martyrs. That's a lie. They are beings that look like old men before the Most High. They do not counsel God. They worship God. They listen to God when God talks. This is who they are. They're spirits. Now, it's in the book of Enoch, the book of Jasher and Jubilees. Yes, it is. Read that. Now, we are bondmen, yet our God hath not forsaken us in our bondage, but hath extended mercy unto us in the sight of the kings of Persia, Darius and Xerxes, to give us a reviving, in other words, to rebuild the temple, that we might begin to worship, that we begin to do those things that he requires of us, that is described to him, us in the law. And to set up the house of our God, and to repair the desolations thereof, and to give us a wall in Judah and in Jerusalem. And now our God, what shall we say after this? For we have forsaken thy commandments. Yes, even to this day, we have forsaken his commandments. We have forsaken his commandments. We have forsaken his commandments. We have other gods before him. We make idols that we bow down to and worship in the sea and the earth and all these things. We do not keep his Sabbath day according to as he prescribes. The first 7 days, every 7 days after the new moon until the next new moon, and then another 7 days after that new moon, continual cycle. We do not do these things standing still in contempt of his commandments. We do not seek after his ways nor his ordinances that he's prescribed for us. To think about it, yes, he's prescribed ordinance for us. It's still laws, but it's just a law that is local. Yes, but this is the way the translators put it. But either way, we have forsaken thy commandments, verse 11, which thou hast commanded by thy servants the prophets, saying, the land unto which ye go to possess, it is an unclean land. In other words, it's already unclean. You already know these people that came in over the Mayflower, they were unclean, they were dirty, they were nasty. Those people that infiltrated Africa, they were dirty, they were nasty. They made it and raped your children and your young women and had babies, whom you call mulattoes, to favor themselves. And they call their way, should I say, civilized. The only civilization and the only civilized people is those who will obey the commandments, statutes, and ordinances of the Most High. These are lawful people. The rest are devilish. You see where you even have leaders, they promise you everything and cannot keep not one. They're deceitful even in that. He says now, go ye possess it. It is an unclean land with the filthiness of the people of the land, with their abominations, which have filled it from one end to the other with uncleanness. Yes, it's unclean. You got the 304s and you got all these other people upon, you got the prostitution and you got whoredoms everywhere. You have those who have their say with animals and men with men and women with women, doing that which is not right and lawful before the Most High. You even have family that even the sexual laws they violate. Even the one God laws they violate. Desiring, coveting what each other's has, from the home even to the locality and the nations. That's why you have wars today. They want what you got. Look at Madagascar. French know that it's not their land, but yet they still go and say it's ours. It's ours. Playing a game. Watch what God does to them. Now, it's not your land, but watch what God does. They will move off of it. Now, he says, after all that has come, he says, now, let's get it. He says, therefore, in verse 12, he says, which have filled it from, or 11, from one end to the other with their uncleanness. This is what they have done. They have spread their uncleanness throughout all the earth. Not that all the people on the continent of Africa were clean. They were pagans too, and many of you have adopted their ways. And in the United States, and even this is why you had the people come. And you don't understand this. You think that you are righteous. You are not righteous. It's not because of your color. It's because of your unrighteousness that these people are the head and you're the tail. Let's get it right. Even to this day, not yesterday, not your ancestors, but you keep doing the same thing over and over and over and over again, just like they have. And not turning to the commandments of the Most High. Now, 13, and after all that has come upon us for our evil deeds, now these heathen, they still have their judgment. They have their sentence. They may not feel it so because they judge themselves by their stuff. They judge themselves by their substance, their military might, and all this other garbage. Don't need no military might. You don't need a dime or a pen, pointed pen in your pocket when God is with you. 13, and after all that has come upon us, listen, Jacob, after all that has come upon you for your evil deeds and for your great trespass, seeing that our God has punished us less than our iniquity deserved. Still, with all the slave injustices and all this other stuff that have happened, what did you do? Oh, it's just too much. Yeah, they've sensitized you to grow hostile against God. Well, God could have said, where was he when slavery happened? Where was God when they came and subdued us? The Arabs came and they're still taking our children away and killing them in their lands. That's still less than what your iniquities deserve. You deserve even worse, because you still do these things, worshiping demons and devils and everything else. It's not by thy judgment, it's by the commandments. Christianity is another idolary. Why do you think your churches and mosques are bombed? You are walking contrary to the Most High Yah. And you cry, sacrilege, you cry. He's given us such a deliverance as this. Now, Ezra, the high priest, is praising God for this. God, we don't deserve this. We've sinned way more than what we imagine. But you take sin as a light thing. It's not light. It's heavy. Sin, transgression against the law, is heavy. Traffic stops. Look at you. Here's those people whom Deuteronomy 28 is bound in their heart, and they come against you. They don't know why they do it. You have reason and they have reason. But if you look to the commandment and the laws according to Deuteronomy chapter 28, if you walk out of that into his blessing by obedience, this will not happen to you. No, you will be okay. Let us continue, that we might wrap this up. He says now in verse 12, now therefore give not your daughters unto their sons, neither take their daughters unto your sons. In other words, keep your daughters, make your daughters virgins. This is what they teach. They teach virgins. They teach promiscuity. They teach not being the women to be rebellious. The little girls that you should like this one and that one. It doesn't matter. The fact is, are they keeping the commandments? And if they are, can you pay the dowry of virgins? You pay the bride price, not only in Africa, but also all over the world. My daughter shall stay a virgin, even if she's an old woman, because we have transgressed against the Most High. And I better know that you are one who keeps the commandments, and you teach your sons the same. Oh, and I teach my daughter the same, and my sons the same, that they all be virgins before they marry. Not just the woman, the man too. Even though he may want many wives or a few wives, still, you ain't got nothing hanging up on nothing Islam. God already said, God already allowed a few wives, as many as you can afford, but not to heap up many wives upon yourself. No, he didn't say one, he said just not many. Because men are who we are. Many of us, we like more than one woman, period. It's just that way. And if a woman is divorced, she can only be released of that marriage by her husband. He has to give her a writing. It's not, see, the states and the heathen are controlling marriage also. Look at the United States. You cannot even go to another country to receive a wife for them taking you to all this hoopla. Instead of sitting down, talking with you, but they talk to you because if you of a certain hue, a certain people, they don't want you having a wife here because you're going to birth that same type of people. That's the bottom line of that, period. Let us continue. Oh, I can rant on and rant on. But that ye may be strong and eat the good of the land and leave it for inheritance to your children forever. This is what he's talking about. 13. And after all that has come upon us for our evil deeds and for our great trespass, seeing that thou art our God has punished us less than our iniquities deserve, God could be way more hideous and way more gross than you can ever imagine. When you read the book down in what the Greeks, during the Greek captivity, the Greek Inquisition upon the children of Jacob, you see some hideous things. This is where you get your dark parts. Yes. Now, and after all that has come upon us for our evil deeds and for our great trespass, seeing that thou art a God that hath punished us less than our iniquities deserve. We deserve every ounce of pain, every ounce of whatever come. Although the people that issue this stuff shall suffer even greater, them and their children. But God put it upon you to chastise you. Maybe you might turn away. Even Joseph and all that he did, when he decided to trust man over God, what happened? He stayed in prison longer. He stayed in that hole longer. Yes, he did. First he was in the hole, he stayed a little longer. God made sure he wasn't harmed by the snakes and stuff. He had a little place where he can go defecate or whatever. God didn't keep him long enough to where he would die. You know, he probably wished he was dead. Then he got into prison after Potiphar's wife tested him. But then he said, remember me to the baker or whatever. And the baker, and God was angry, so he stayed a little longer in prison. So your trust is in man and the arm of man, and you don't understand that. Forget them. They're going to give you what they have to give you. You work all your life, yeah, you should get what you're supposed to get. You're supposed to have your savings and everything. But when you sin against God, woe is you. And after all this has come upon our evil deeds, okay, verse 14. He says, now you have punished us less than our iniquity deserve in 13, and has given us such deliverance as this. In other words, you allow us to be delivered out of Persia and allow us to go back and rebuild the temple by which you are our God. Man cannot rule Jacob. Man cannot even rule the earth. And if he does and he can, God has blessed him in his mind and his heart. Even to warrior, you ask yourself, how long will his heart stay righteous toward the people? And how long shall the people stay righteous toward their land, upright in their land? Shall we again break thy commandments and join in affinity with the people of these abominations? Wouldst not thou be angry with us till thou hadst consumed us, so that there should be no remnant, nor escaping? O Yahweh, God of Israel, thou art righteous, for we remain yet escaped. As it is this day, behold, we are both in thee in our trespasses, and we cannot stand before thee because of this. This is a prayer that we should pray, even for us to this day. And if we do that and people begin to turn, especially the children of Jacob, the children of Noah, turn into the law, statutes, ordinances, and commandments of the Most High, then we will have peace.
Walk with me.